In this video, I'm going to show you why you may or may not want to use ternaries in your code and what some alternatives are to make your code appear more clean and more efficient. Right now, welcome to Rock Codes. I'm Rasheen. I want to help you code something awesome. Today we're looking at this piece of code I have in Code Sandbox that is basically illustrating one of the main reasons you may see ternaries in code. And this is specifically React, but this video is going to apply really to any code that has nested conditionals and is using ternaries. So let's take a look here. What we have is a basic app component. We have a loading state, we have a data state, and we have an error state. I'm not showing the use effect here, but it's just loading data from the dog.ceo API. It's using the loading state and the data state and the error state to give us some feedback as to how that is working out. Now, if we look at the ultimate return, as you can see, we have the loading state. If we're in loading, we show loading, or we could have shown some spinner or something like that. If there's data, we show the data. We map over that into a list of images. And if there's an error, we show the error. And then if something else, we say there was no result. And the immediate thing that we see with this is it's a little hard to follow the flow because it's a nested ternary. Especially with this final result, does this match up to the first condition? Does it match up to the second? It's a little unclear. It's not immediately clear, and your code should be immediately clear what is happening. That shows professional code, that shows reusable code, and code that shows that you know what you're doing. So let's try to refactor this a bit to make it more clear. Now, one main issue that I see where you run into this nested ternary situation is that for some reason, a lot of people forget a function can have multiple return statements. You don't have to smash everything into this one area. So let's take a look here. We know for a fact that if the loading is true, we want to render a loading message. So let's just simply pull that out into a separate return statement. If loading, return, it's loading. All right, so now we can get rid of this. And already in trying to refactor this, it's hard to understand. I don't really know what to get rid of. So let's see, just removing that. It still works for some reason, but I'm just not confident in what is happening. At any rate, let's continue. So if there's a loading state, we'll go ahead and show that it's loading. These actually can all be separate. If there's data, let's go ahead and just return our list. Let's pull that on out. All right, and get rid of that. Okay, and then obviously continuing in the same manner, if there's an error, then we return error, or whatever that error message is. Okay, so now we have this last case, which I don't really remember what that goes along with. But now that we've broken everything up, we know that if there's a loading state, then we put that it was loading. If there is data, we show the data. If there was some error, we show the error. We actually don't really need this last case. And that shows how having it in such a complicated nested ternary kind of bundle was actually having us doing something and it didn't make sense. The only reason we'd show this result is if we are no longer loading, there was not an error, we did receive a data response. However, the length of that data was 0 or whatever. So here we'd probably want to say if data.length, and it depends on the data. But you know, we'd want to say if data.length. This will let us know that this data array, which we should initialize properly as an empty array, if there is something in that array, we'll show the list. And we can change this into an else. And in that case, we'd return that there were no results. Okay, so that doesn't really work well because then you can see we'll never hit this error state. So let's pull this up. Right? So now we're getting all of our conditions. If we're loading, if we have an error, or if there is data. Otherwise, we'll display this, which is really just catching whether there's data, we got a response, but there were no results in the list. So it's still just going to be an empty array more than likely. All right, and look how much cleaner this is. It's way easier to reason about what's going on here. We clearly can see what our states are for this component. Everything is broken out. We can refactor these individual pieces without digging into this big block of question marks and colons and whatnot. And this applies again for things besides React components. This applies for your error, your event handlers and error handlers and whatever functions you have. Think about these conditions before you start to merge everything into these cute little ternaries. They're great for certain conditions like filtering arrays and things where you literally need a one-liner. But once you start building on top of that and nesting them in each other, it immediately becomes unreadable. And you may see data out here, or you may see articles saying, oh, you can format them in this certain way, and then it reads like a list and blah, blah, blah. But it's not true. It just doesn't look as clean as just breaking it out into elementary if statements. There's just nothing simpler to look at than a regular conditional statement. Don't at me. Or do. We can talk about it. That's going to be all for today, guys. Real quick video, show you something really simple. Keep an ear out. I'm going to be dropping another video that continues from here about how to break this up into a custom hook, and it's going to start from this exact code more than likely. Should be dropping that this week. So again, keep an ear out. Subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Hit the notification bell to make sure you actually get notified about that video. As always, peace.